Welcome back to the Battle Camp. Thank you for tuning in. Please show some support by liking, commenting, subscribing, etc. George Groves announced his retirement today. Kind of felt like this is what his next step was going to be after the fight he had with Callum Smith. That defeat was difficult to watch. It just felt like Callum was. It felt like he was just a weight class bigger than George Groves, which is weird given George Groves has never looked small for the super middleweight division. He's never been in the ring with someone and looked kind of physically weaker, if that makes sense. I don't know. It just felt like Callum Smith was able to almost kind of crowd him out, and I don't know, kind of like a big brother beating up a small brother almost. Anyway, this video is not about that. It's about the fact that George Groves accomplished so much in his career. He done everything that he set out to, and he never had it easy. From the first fight with Froch, and then obviously the second one, the knockout, coming back from that, and then switching up promoters, going with the Sauerland brothers and rebuilding, facing Badou Jack, losing to him, changing trainers from Paddy. Who remembers Paddy? Paddy Fitzgerald, was it? Or Patrick? Paddy Fitzpatrick. I can't remember, but fuck me, that guy, he was really interesting to listen to. I do recommend going on IFL TV's channel and watching some of the interviews that he did with Coogan back around the time when George Groves fought Carl Froch. He just seemed like a real thinking man, but obviously George Groves didn't buy into that because he got rid of him and joined forces with McGuigan. But yeah, he had a really interesting career, did George Groves. Personally, I was a boxing fan. I've always been a boxing fan. I've always enjoyed watching fights, but it was the build up to George Groves's fight with James DeGale, because that was around the same time, and I might be wrong on this, but because I'm doing this through memory, I haven't actually gone and looked this up. That was around the time when IFL TV kind of started up. I remember watching IFL TV, and Hatman had his first channel way back in the day. I'm talking, this must have been 2009, 8, 7, something like that, because I remember I was working in a particular job where I used to listen to YouTube quite a lot whilst I was working, and IFL was my go-to channel in them days, and it still is. And I became really interested in boxing because the channel IFL, it kind of gave us as fans an insight, the background into the background behind the scenes of boxing, etc. It was a new way of showcasing fighters. We got to know what they like from a personality standpoint, not just watching basic kind of interviews with mainstream media outlets where they kind of, just talk about the fight. This was different. You got to see what these people were actually like. They didn't just talk about boxing, and I was really interested in the build up to the DeGale and George Groves fight. And I actually remember at that time I wanted DeGale to win just because he supports Arsenal like myself, and obviously George Groves is a dirty Chelsea fan, and that was my sole reason for wanting DeGale to win. But during the build up for the fight, I kind of, personality wise, I was more in tune, let's say, with George Groves than I was with DeGale. But yeah, that was around the time I got kind of familiar with more familiar with these up and coming fighters, because that's what they were in those days. Even though that was quite a big fight, George Groves and James DeGale, it's the equivalent, I'd say, of say Buatsi fighting Yard now, I'd say, even though that was a British level fight. I believe it's for the British title. I might be wrong. I really should have looked this up before I made this video. But I just wanted to say a few words about George Groves because he's had an absolutely wicked career. Honestly, he's kind of had so many hurdles that he's had to go through, and he's come out the other side. And I believe he's done well for himself and his family. You know, he's comfortable from a financial standpoint. He's done himself proud. He's done, you know, like when people look at George Groves, no one's going to say, oh, that guy's an absolute dickhead. Do you know what I mean? He was a solid fighter, really, really exciting to watch, powerful, but also susceptible to getting hit. And, you know, we saw him hit the floor, the canvas on occasions. The only regret, it can't be a regret because it's nothing to do with me, but I do wish that we got to see DeGale and George Groves fight again when they were both at their prime. I really would have enjoyed that, but obviously the stars didn't align and it didn't happen. But I think the best way of showing that you've accomplished a lot is when your peers, people that you fought against, etc., have nice things to say about you. And there won't be many people that will have bad things to say about George Groves, I don't think. I think he did really, really, really well, and I think he exceeded a lot of people's expectations, especially after the Badou Jack fight. And I think although Callum Smith was a defeat, I think the fight with Chris Eubank Jr., his penultimate fight, was a good kind of showcase of what George Groves is all about. He's a good fighter, man, and he was a good talker, especially during the Carl Froch fights. Both of them, the build up to both of them, the way he behaved, the way he conducted himself. No one really gave him a chance, and he kind of proved a lot of people wrong. And all the turmoil that was going on behind the scenes, especially to the lead up to the first fight, where him and Adam Booth broke up, and still to this day I've got no idea. I don't think a lot of people have any idea about why that happened. But that was a bit of a shame for me because I always liked them together. I always liked the trio of David Haye, Booth, and George Groves, and that all kind of dismantled for whatever reason. But yeah, George Groves, what a fighter, what a fighter. And he just seems like a nice bloke, to be honest. Watching the videos and watching him going back and forth with Kugan Cassius and whatnot, he just seems like a down-to-earth guy, even though he supports Chelsea. So best wishes, George Groves. Hope you have a happy and fulfilled retirement, and whatever you do next, I hope it's fun for you and fulfilling. And I hope that you're still about in the boxing scene, and I hope you still kind of you know, appear on IFL TV interviews and things of that nature, because you know, if you kind of sail off into the sunset, it's totally understandable. But as a fan, I always like watching and hearing from George Groves. So yeah, I suppose that's I don't really have anything amazing to say about this or insightful. I just want to say I was a fan, and appreciate all the hard work that George Groves put in over the last he's probably been a professional for about, maybe, I don't know, between 7 and 10 years. I should have fucking just looked at his Wikipedia page while I was doing this. I haven't even got my laptop over in front of me. But yeah, man, well done, George Groves. What a career, what a man.